Welcome everyone to Lingua Latīna tutorials with Mr. K, Pensum D. This video explains the new grammar and syntax found in chapter 14 of the Lingua Latīna per se Illustrāta series. It is meant to accompany the Latine Disco text available from Focus Bookstore and the Pensum D worksheets available from 50%Latin.blogspot.com or christianlanguage.com. Let's get right into the text. The first new grammatical feature I want to point out, you'll find in lines 3 and 4. Here where we have quintus dormire non potest, quod et caput et pes et idolet. So Quintus is not able to sleep because both his head and his foot, we would say in English, are hurting him, right? Are bugging him. But in Latin, when you have a list of things, the verb gets attracted, what we call it attraction, attracted to the last item in the list. So if that's singular, the verb tends to become singular, or if it's plural, it tends to become plural. The reason that we have dolet here, hurts singular, is because of the last item in the list here is pes, his foot. So just a peculiarity of Latin grammar. If you had a list of people, it would be plural if you have more than one individual. Okay, in line 11, we have the next feature, and that is here where we have altere duobus pueris valet, altere grotat. So one of the two boys, or one from the two boys, is well, feels fine. The other is sick. So we see here the ablative plural masculine form of duo. Duo means two. We've seen that before. But the plural form here in the ablative is duobus if it's masculine, and I want you to compare that. And the reason it's masculine is because it's modifying boys, which are masculine, grammatically. And then look at line 16 where we have altera e duabus fenestris est aperta altera clausa. So one of the two windows, or one literally from the two windows, is open, the other closed. So we have duabus, ablative plural feminine in form from duai. If you were looking these up in the dictionary, you would not find duabus, you'd find duo, duai, duo as the dictionary entry. The nominative forms, as you'll always find for nouns. Look up the nominative forms, and for those irregular ones, which you'll see more of this chapter, you need to remember what that happens to be. So you need to remember now that duabus and duobus will match the gender of the noun. Fenestra here we see is feminine, and the plural here, fenestris, goes with duabus, the feminine form. The next feature is in line 12, where we have a specific way of asking a question in Latin and it expects a certain kind of response. We have uter puer aigrotat marcusne an quintus. So the question here is, which boy is sick? Uter being the questioning word, the questioning pronoun. Which one? Which boy is sick, Marcus or Quintus? Notice the new word for or here. It means the same as out, A-U-T, but after an uter question, this is the form you should use, on. And the answer to an uter question, which one, you have basically three options. Either you could say both are sick, and the answer there would be uterque. You just add que to it. Uterque, utraque if it's feminine, utrumque if it's neuter. Or if it isn't both, if it's just one of them, you could answer alter, altera, alterum. One of them is sick, alter aigrotat. So you could say both are sick, uterque aigrotat. One of them is sick, alter aigrotat, or you could say that neither one of them is sick, and that would be, here we see in a line in the margin note, nuter aigrotat, neither one is sick. Okay, the next feature I want to point out is in line 22. And we have here, puer dormiens galum canentem non audit. So we have a new part of speech here. It's a form of verb called a participle. It's here in dormiens. It has features both of a verb and of an adjective. So like a verb, it is going to have a tense, and it's going to have a and voice. So here, this is a present active participle. And we translate participles like this as ing words in English. So the boy sleeping, or the sleeping boy, and here in the margin it defines it as qui dorment, the one who sleeps. The sleeping boy, ing word, does not hear the crowing rooster. And here we have another participle, canentem, from canet, canera, to sing, or to crow, here. So he doesn't hear it, and this is accusative going with galum, crowing. So another feature of participles, besides being like a verb, having tense and voice, it also has case, number, and gender. So the case here is, because it's an adjective, it matches the case of the noun that it's modifying, like an adjective. So the boy, it's modifying boy, so boy is nominative, so dormiens is nominative. And boy is masculine, so dormiens is masculine. And boy, puer, is singular, so dormiens is singular. Look at canentem with galum. So it's saying the crowing rooster. So galum is accusative, because it's the object of audit. And so canentem is also accusative. Galum is masculine, so canentem is masculine, and singular, singular. So that's the way that participles work. They're ing words that are like verbs with tense and voice, and like adjectives with case, number, and gender. And they decline like I-stem adjectives. So, or I-stem, actually a combination of more like an I-stem, sometimes like an I-stem adjective, sometimes like an I-stem noun. We'll talk about that later. But the endings here for dormiens in the masculine and feminine, if you were going to decline it, it would be dormiens, nominative, then dormientem, accusative, dormientis, dormienti, for dative. And then the ablative could be either dormiente, if it's acting like its verbal form, or dormienti, if it's acting like its adjective. The neuter, and then the plural would be dormientes, dormientium, dormientibus, dormientes, dormientes, dormientium, dormientibus, dormientibus. All of that is on page 108 in your text. The neuter declension would be dormiens, dormiens, dormientis, dormienti, dormiente, or dormienti. Same rule applies for if it's a verb form, it's dormiente. If it's like an adjective, then it's dormienti. And then the plural, dormientia, dormientia, dormientium, dormientibus, dormientibus. So basically know that dormiens is going to decline like ovis, like a sheep, like an I-stem noun, or like brevis, an I-stem adjective, and then it shouldn't give you too much trouble when you're creating those forms. Line 25 has our next feature, and that is Davus cubiculum intrans interrogat, quamod se habet pes tuus hodie. So Davis asks, or Davis entering the bedroom asks, how is your foot holding up today? Or how does your foot feel, literally? How does it have itself? So Davis entering the bedroom. Here we have another example of a participle, intrans, entering. And notice that, like a verb, it can take an object. So entering the bedroom, cubiculum is the accusative direct object of intrans. Remember again, all participles, the ing words, can be like verbs and like adjectives. And sometimes they act more like a verb, sometimes they act more like an adjective. look at line 40 for our next grammar feature. And we see ora prima est inquitatus, surge electo. So Davis says, it's the first hour, get up out of bed. Here we have a new verb for dicit. It means the same as dicit, to say, he says, Davis says, but it's a defective verb. Defective meaning it only has a few forms, and most 90% or more of the time you're going to see this in the form of inquit, he says singular, or inquiunt, they say. And it always is going to show up after some of the words that have been said. So you have some quotation here, it's the first hour, says Davis, get up out of bed. That's just the way that inquit works, and you should know that that is called a defective verb because it doesn't have a full conjugation. And line 43, we see another new feature, which is right here, affermihi aquam ad manus. This is Marcus to Davis saying, bring me some water for my hands. Here we have mihi, the dative from ego. So if you're going to look this word up in the dictionary, you'd look up ego. Bring to me some water for my hands. This is an indirect object dative, and it's irregular. So the only way to recognize it is to learn it separately from ego. And we're going to see another example of mihi, but used in a different way with a different function in line 66. So let's go ahead to 66. And you see here Davis who says, tibi nec caput nec pes dolet. And above that we have mihi quoque caput dolet. So Marcus says that, that the head, literally, the head also hurts to me. Or we would say my head also hurts. And Davis says in reply that neither your head nor your foot hurts you, or is hurting you. Both of these, mihi and tibi, are examples of what we call the dative of interest. And the dative of interest is a dative used to explain who is being harmed, or who is being benefited, so it could be good or bad for the person, or just who is concerned. So concerning me, my head also hurts, or and then concerning you, neither your head nor your foot hurts. So that it gets a special name. The dative of interest is not an indirect object. It's not a dative of possession. It has a new name that you need to learn. You can see the same thing in lines 64 and 77. So look here at 64 where it says, quote, pes et caput et idolet, because his foot and his head hurt him. So concerning him, his foot and his head hurt. There's another example of a dative of interest, telling you like who is harmed, particularly. And then in line 77, the same grammatical feature, but in a different form. If you look here at, starting with multis barbaris magna corporis pars nuda est. So concerning many barbarians, a large part of their body is naked. So this is another example of a dative of interest, telling you to who is benefiting, who's being harmed, or who is concerned in a specific situation. The next feature I want to point out is in line 86. So scroll ahead to there. And we have da mihi calceos pedes frigent mihi. He says, give me my shoes, and my feet are freezing me. Actually, I think that we're on the wrong line. We wanted to go down from 86 to 87, so starting here. Davus et I calceos dat, et eum secum venire jubet. Okay, so Davis gives him his shoes, and he orders him to come with him. We have secum here. So in the margin you see several forms. We have mecum, te cum, se cum. This is the way that it means the same as me cum is cum me, with me, te cum is cum te, with you, and se cum is the same as cum se, with himself. And these are all ablatives because they're with cum, the preposition cum, and cum just gets tacked on to the end. That was just the Roman style of saying this. So we see this, so veni me cum, come with me. And then we see the same thing a little further down, and I think it was line 117, but we'll get to that in a minute. Just know that these forms are also, if you're going to look these up in the dictionary, you're not going to find under me cum, you're not going to find anything except maybe referring you to ego. This comes from ego, I. Ego, me, mihi, me. So it has, me is just the, it's identical in the accusative and the ablative. And then the same thing with se, you would not look up se cum, but you would look up su, S-U. Okay, the next feature is in line 91, where we have parentes a filio intrante salutantur. The parents are greeted by their son entering the room. And we see intrante. What is the case number and gender of this? This is another participle, a present active participle. Notice that now has a new ending because it's modifying filio by the son entering the room. And so this is going to be matching filio in case number gender. So ablative like filio, and because this is an ablative of agent, right, greeted by the son. So it's ablative like filio, it is masculine like filio, and it is singular like filio. And since this is acting more like a verb in its form, the parents are greeted by the son entering, has more of a verbal sense. That's why you have the E on the end here rather than a long I, which would be the case if it were acting just primarily as an adjective. The next feature is in line 115. And let's go ahead there. And we see that is servus cum pueris ire solet omnes res eorum portans. This slave is accustomed to go with the boys, carrying all of their things. So here we see that omnis in the margin means the opposite of nullus. So omnis res would be all of their things. The opposite of that would be nullas res, none of their things, or no things. So all things, omnes res, nullas res, no things. The omnis is also used substantively, so not just like an adjective, as the opposite of nemo. Nemo, which means nobody, the opposite of that from omnes is omnes, everybody. So nemo, nobody, omnes, everybody. And the same thing for nihil, nihil, nothing, and omnia, nominative, neuter, plural, all or everything. So quick review, so omnis, every, and nullus, none. And then nemo, nobody, omnes, everybody. And nihil, nothing, and omnia, everything. The last feature is right here in line 117, and we saw it earlier, and this is just a review. Julius medus tecum ire non potest. So medus is not able to go with you. So we have another example of cum tacked on to the pronoun. And te comes from, if you're going to look this up in the dictionary, you're not going to find it under te, you'll find it under tu, meaning you. And it is ablative going with cum. So those are your brand new grammar and syntax features for chapter 14.